And this is our talk today. I call it human tuning. And we're going to talk about neurocoherence, neuroplasticity, and self-regulation, and how to use tuning forks, and now also polarity therapy, five-star balance, and so on, to achieve, and what these three words mean in science and also in your life. Because one of the things I want to do is translate the research, the science we have today into your life, because it's just amazing what's out there now. So the first word is neurocoherence. And neurocoherence, I call it being in tune. The scientists would say it's the frequency and amplitude of the synchronicity of oscillating neural patterns between brain sites. And then if we look at it more inwardly, the way that you would experience and your clients would experience it, we would experience it as unity, being centered, grounded. The athletes would say they're in the zone and you're clear. Now, when I'm clear, I just say, well, my brain is synchronistically oscillating, and I'm sure everybody would understand that. Thus, I translate the science to you. And when I say neurocoherence in science, it's a mechanism for cognitive dynamics, neural communication through neurocoherence. And if you look at those spiral waves, which is really pure polarity therapy, it's the propagation of spiral waves, it's neurocoherence. In other words, these different areas of the brain, these different sites are propagating in spirals when you're coherent. And at any moment, many neuronal groups in our brain are active. They're all spiraling together. These activated neuron groups oscillate. That means they vibrate and move together, and they undergo rhythmic excitability fluctuations that produce temporal windows for communication. Now, that's a scientific way of saying, wow, I really like that, or fantastic, I'm really geared up, I'm ready to go. It's only coherently oscillating neural groups can interact effectively, because their communication windows for input and for output are open at the same times. In other words, everything inside of you is communicating together, is in resonance together. When this happens, there's a flexible pattern of coherence, defines a flexible communication structure, which subserves our cognitive flexibility. In other words, we're open at this point, quite honestly, we're open to our intuition, we're open to our logical thinking, and our heart is open. That'd be ideal. And that's why we talk about the vagus nerve, because when we say neurocoherence, we're not talking about just the brain. We're talking about, basically, we're talking about the brain, we're talking about the heart, we're talking about our gut, we're talking about the way we think, the way our neurons function, the way we logically perceive something, the way we can quantify something. That would be in our brain in a way. We could talk about our gut, that's our intuition. We feel it, we know it. It's instinct almost, it's a gut feeling. And balancing, it's interesting that if you have the head and the gut, but balancing in the middle is the heart. And of course, most of you know in yoga, the heart is called the Anahata chakra. And Anahata means that's silence. It's the vortex of vortexes. So when the head and the gut, the logic and the intuition are in balance, the heart opens up and there's feeling, love, and empathy. And so when I say neurocoherence, that's what I mean. That'd be a great state to be in. Great state to be in, except for the fact we have neural dissonance. Now, I know since we're polarity practitioners, we've never experienced neural dissonance or being out of tune. But we experience, when we have neural dissonance, we experience it as cognitive dissonance, confusion, frustration, unorganized anxiety, and panic. Basically, that's what I experience when I get all the emails saying, John, you sent out the wrong link. And then I found out that my Zoom account wouldn't let me in. I finally got in and sent it back out. And that was frustrating. And then I was confused, but I unconfused myself. And body dissonance, with people come to us with discomfort, pain, loss of rhythm, headaches, colon disorders, everything you could think of. And the science article, when you have neural dissonance, it's called complex network geometry and frustrated synchronization. And I like the concept of geometry for polarity therapy because you see that eventually we'll see the scientists are now talking about geometric patterns, and the most important geometric pattern they talk about is the 5-star pattern. But they call neural dissonance frustrated synchronization, whereas coherence is everything synchronized. And then we have another term, neuroplasticity. I just want to say something about neural dissonance again, that it's very important. In fact, one of the most boring states of the world is neurocoherence. And we're always constantly what we want to do is have coherence so we can go out of coherence into neural dissonance and then get back to coherence. That would be what Dr. Stone would call evolution. So, but the way to get back to coherence is, if you have neural dissonance, is only through neuroplasticity, because you have to figure something out. In Dr. Stone's terms, he said, obstacles are God's design to make man or woman with a spine. In other words, you have an obstacle, you're coherent and you get neural dissonant, and you got to figure out the obstacle to get back to coherence. So neuroplasticity, the science of it, means the forming of new neural connections in order to continually adapt to new situations throughout life. A positive relationship with neural dissonance is an opportunity to create new neural networks and new life possibilities. And neural dissonance is our ability to creatively adapt and change. It's creating the ability to create all kinds of new possibilities, discovering new relationships. And in terms of sound therapy, neuroplasticity is incubated by lots of different sounds. We'll see neural tuning, neurocoherence is incubated by very simple sound, C and G, but neuroplasticity is all sounds. The more you can listen to them, the more your body moves with them, the more possibilities you have of developing and pruning new neural networks. So if you have, whenever a client or patient comes to see me and their life is messed up, I say they have neural dissonance and they're looking for a way back to coherence. And the only way they're going to do that is through neuroplasticity. And that's basically what we do in polarity therapy. We help people back to coherence. Another way I like to say in my classes, I like to say chaos is my friend. And that's based on Pritigin's research where he says order out of chaos. So every new order must come through neuroplasticity from chaos. And then once we can go from coherence to neural dissonance, move through neuroplasticity, we come back to neurocoherence. Now, the idea is to do this very, very, very fast. That's the idea of a daily practice. You're practicing neurocoherence in the morning and at night constantly. So you know how to get back to it. You know when you're out of neurocoherence. You don't panic when you're neural dissonant. You take a breath. It's almost like an anxiety attack. You learn, you know where you're going, where you want to get back to. So self-regulation scientifically is the ability to monitor and control our own behavior, emotions, and thoughts by altering them in accordance with the demands of life. It's the ability to do automatic self-tuning, to return to neurocoherence, and we would call it to return to inner harmony and a deep sense of appreciation. That's what the goal is, I think, of polarity. That's the goal of the sound healing I integrate with polarity. It's the goal of all healing, as far as I'm concerned. When we self-regulate back to that state of neurocoherence, our body is it's tuned. It's like a car that's really tuned and purring. Everything is moving correctly. And this is my understanding of how long it goes on. I just did this sort of to be funny, but it's basically, it never stops. Basically, we're always going to have neurocoherence. We will always lose it. We will always have to find our way back, neuroplasticity. and then we will self-regulate. And if we don't find our way back by self-regulation, we go see our polarity therapist, who helps us find our way back, and so eventually we can self-regulate. But it's guaranteed that if you have neurocoherence, you won't have it for long, but you can regain it very fast. The idea is you should be able to regain it at light speeds. And the topic today really is our biosonics and neurocoherence. And basically I use for neurocoherence the biosonic body tuners, it's C and G. I use an autofork, although primarily in this talk I do C and G, but I use the autofork on the body and in different areas, especially in joints and trigger points, acupuncture points and reflex points. But C and G I like because it's something I have my patients do, my clients do as a daily practice. And of course, most of you know the book I wrote on it. And it's really simple. This is all we do. And now I'm going to stop for a moment and say hi to everybody. Hello. And, oops, I get rid of, there we go. And yeah, I see somebody putting tuning forks on already. So I think what I want to do is just show you the tuning forks as a practice. And then I want to do the science again of how they work, but also I think it's the science of how polarity works. I'm just going to show it to you. And I think the easiest way for me to do this is with a video. And first, because it's hard, I know on the on Zoom it's hard. I'm going to hold up. I have my C and G. It's a C tuning fork and a G tuning fork, right? And the video will show you how to use them. But basically, as a practice, there's two ways to do it. One is a meditative practice, and one is an inner meditative practice. The other is an active practice of movement. But the inner practice, you just tap on your knees and hold them to your ears, like so. And I would just have my clients or patients do that in the morning, keep them by their bedside. And the practice is you do it once in the morning with a good intention, when you wake up to tune your day, and once in the evening with a good intention before you go to sleep. And of course, it's a 1 minute. I don't ask a lot of my patients, just that, and I wanted to be successful. One of the problems that I came across early on when I started telling people you should meditate for 10 minutes or 15 minutes, they would do it and then stop. They would say, oh, I'm busy, I can't do it. I only meditated for 5 minutes, and they thought in their mind was they couldn't be successful that way, and they were getting more depressed, basically. So I said, just do the tuning forks for 1 minute, like a mantra, and it worked much better. Now I'm all for people meditating 15 minutes and 15 in the morning and at night. I myself, since I've been 19 years old, have meditated for 20 minutes a day in the morning and 20 minutes a day at night, and I've never missed. But I'm crazy. That's a discipline that I just do. But most people, we just want something they can do easily, I want them to do it and be successful. So in their mind is, I'm successful, I'm doing this, and that's going to help them improve as well. So let me show you this video. So I have a C tuning fork and a G tuning fork. These are what we call our body tuners. They're the heart of the biosonic tuning system. First method is tapping it to your knee. It's the easiest place. And it requires that you look at the flat side of the tuning fork, not the edges, but where it's flat. And when you tap, you hold it by the stem, and you bring it like so above your patella. That's the hard part of your knee here, your knee bone.
And about a third of the way down on the tuning fork here, you just gently tap like that, and it's going to be ringing. You can maybe hear it ringing if I do this. It will ring for a good amount of time when it's correctly tapped. So you want to be careful not to hurt your knee. So you shouldn't bang your knee like that. But also you don't want to hit your knee hard either. So it's important that you just sort of drop the tuning fork on your knee and bring it to your ear like so. If you have a problem or you're worried about your knee or hurting your knee, one really good way to tap the tuning forks, and it's really simple, is to take an apple, because the apple is just almost like your knee in a way, and you hold the apple on its side or just set it down, and you take the flat side of the tuning fork and you just give it a good tap like that. You can hear it ringing, and you can bring it to your ears. If you want to tap two tuning forks at once on the apple, you just lay the apple down and tap two at once, one and the other, or both at the same time.
Great. So that then becomes the primary method of, that's how simple it is, basically. You just tap, bring them to your ears, right? And you just meditate. You just listen. I just tell people to close their eyes, have a good intention. They want a good intention. I just say, you're going to have, just close your eyes and say, you're going to have great dreams tonight. Close your eyes. I'm going to tune myself for a great day. And if you want to go deeper into this concept of intention, in my latest book, it's called Sound Healing and Values Visualization. I have probably 50 pages on how to deal with intention, how to set intention based on your values, and how to use intention for everything, especially like cancer, for different disease states, how to use it for getting a new apartment, a new house, whatever it may be that you want. So that's available, but as far as I'm concerned, a good intention, you just tap it with goodness in your heart, and that will do the job, and you can then refine it from there if you want. That's how simple this practice is. Now, I'm going to do questions, but I think because there's so many people, I'm going to go ahead and do the next part so that we can just have time for questions. Because there's another way to tap the forks. And so the first way I just showed you to be more an inner meditative way to do it. The second, some people like both ways together. Some people like to be more active. Like I know my son is a yoga teacher, but also he likes to get up and move with the tuning forks. So I'm going to show you another video, and then I'm going to demonstrate myself how you would do this. But first we need to tap them, learn how to tap them together. And oops.
So I have a C tuning fork and a G tuning fork. These are what we call our body tuners. They're the heart of the biosonic tuning system. And I'm going to tap them together on their edges. And you can hear them ring. It's really very simple to get the sound this way. But I want you just to think about the different ways in terms of volume or dynamic that you can tap. Because sometimes I've seen people just sort of bang them together. But you remember, these are musical instruments. So when you tap, you can have a very soft tap. You get it louder. Like so. So when you practice, You want to practice very soft taps, then a little louder, so you get control of the dynamics of tuning forks as you tap them together.
Great. So now we're going to do the active method. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to switch to my other camera and put my microphone out, hopefully don't trip. And you'll see my host now. Actually what you're seeing now is my studio on a green screen. Okay. And now you're going to see my studio at home as it is. No. Wait a second. There we go. There we go. That's where I'm going to go. This is what part of my studio. So I'm going to walk over and I'm going to talk with you from over there now. And I can't see you, but you can see me, I hope. Anyway, I have my two tuning forks, right? If I'm going to do an active practice, it's very important that we know in polarity therapy, the waves move through joints in our body when we're coherent. So therefore, when we're not coherent, we get our shoulders up like this. So one leg's longer than another, one shoulder's higher than another, because neurocoherence would be the 5-star pattern in balance. So now if I want to do a meditation that's active, it's like Qigong. It's like a polarity exercise with sound of just dancing and moving with sound and you're letting your joints be free. So it looks like. You could do meridians, cranial work. Like so. And then if you want, you could just afterwards just do an inner meditation like so. And you could then go to sleep, wake up that way, whatever you want. That would be an active meditation practice. The other way of doing it's an inner meditation practice. In fact, in yoga, that would be called a nada yoga practice. Now I'm going to go back to my other camera. Just hold on a moment. Great. So now I'm going to do just a little more science, and then we'll do sharing. So I'm going to go back to here. And there we go, just tap on your knees and go. It's really simple. And this is just showing that mathematically, when you tap C and G, you're actually giving yourself a 5-star pattern. It's the math. That's one of the things that I've done is basically quantify consciousness, which is what they do. So we have exact numbers, exact frequencies that go with exact geometric structures. And that would be the external science quantifiable part of it. The inner experience is one of coherence. And I like to say, be still and ye shall know. I believe Dr. Stone used to say that. I like it. Now let's do the science. a 5-star. And the science is, this is a higher dimensional patterns can form only when neural networks are sparsely connected. To form complex structures, you have to lose connections. In other words, having a lower chance of making connections is better, not worse. This is neurocoherence. This is completely radical thinking in neuroscience. In this model, the 5-star geometric pattern is the key to all higher dimensional structures. Now, let me put that in. You can see this is called a 5-clique neuron. You can see this is pictures of the 5-star. It's in oscillating patterns in the brain in coherence. It's also a spiral. And I put the picture here of the 5-star pattern as we might talk about in polarity, because it's basically the 5-star pattern is a star within a star within a star within a star within a star, and so on. It will go on forever. But when this idea of losing connections, the simplest connection you can have in your neural networks is the 5-star pattern, right? And so therefore, if you're confused, if you have neural dissonance, you come in, my life is a mess, and this and that. You see people lay on your table, you do some balancing for them, they come off the table, and they're neurocoherent. But that neurocoherence scientifically is that they've just got their brain, the different areas of their brain functioning together and oscillating together. In order to do that, you have to go to the lowest common denominator, and that's the 5-star pattern. You can go there through touch, you can go there through sound, you can go there through good food, you go there for Leonardo da Vinci. That's basically what he's showing, is that when you're in the 5-star pattern, the circle is heaven, the square is earth, and when his fingers touch the circle and square at the same time, that's C and G. He's in perfect balance between heaven and earth. He's neurocoherent, but his hands go down because it doesn't stay that way for very long, and he has to know how to get them back up again. And this is one of my favorite pictures. This is the tuning wave, and this is just showing the human body, and all where the waves cross are joints, ether in polarity therapy. And when the joints are tight, in other words, they're hypertuned, then you can get distortions in the geometric pattern of the body, or hypotuned. And to the right, the very right top is what's called a caliper. That's what ancient painters used to paint perfect bodies. But also, if we put it on the body, you'll see it falls at the joints. And you can also imagine this caliper is like a C and a G tuning fork. It's basically the golden mean, but the golden mean begins as an irrational number, something that can never be reached. It's a spiral through the Fibonacci series with C and G. And then we see the same ratio, the same dimensions and buildings in the universe. In other words, as above, so below. And when we're coherent, we have the stillness of the center of the spiral, and we have access to all that there is in the vibrational universe at that moment. It's just showing that you're a baby in the womb is a spiral, and it's a Fibonacci spiral, and that's a C and G pattern that's expanding. One of my favorite studies, cliques of neurons bound into cavities provide a missing link between structure and function. And one of the goals of modern biology is to understand how a system's form influences its functions. In other words, how does the system's geometry, how does the system's structure influence its functions? And human brain neural networks manifest structure-function relationships. And converging research suggests that when neurons fire in coherent spatial temporal patterns, we are capable of transitioning from one spatial temporal pattern or geometry via nodes, in other words, stillness. A node just means a place of utter stillness, to another spatial temporal pattern at light speeds. So here you see complex neural patterns. And if you're neurocoherent and you have these complex patterns, they're going to function perfectly. the same patterns, if they go out of sync, they go out of sync. There's a frustrated synchronicity in the pattern. That's good. You're going to experience that in your life as a mess, as something that's not working for you, that you need to go to something simpler in order to come back to resolve the complex synchronicity of that pattern. But basically in science now, there are trillions of possible, probably infinite, of these possible geometric oscillating firing patterns that we can manifest. And I threw this, I don't know, oops, that got in there by mistake, but I thought you might like to see it. This is just tuning animals, because polarity therapy works and sound therapy works great for animals, horses and my llama, and doggies and kitties. And quickly, that neurocoherence, we talked earlier about nitric oxide, that rhythmically releases, neurocoherence, you'll be rhythmically releasing nitric oxide in your human cells. It's a molecule created by nitrogen bound to oxygen. It's released rhythmically into surrounding tissues as a gas. And nitric oxide is a normal chemical regulator for all physiological processes related to good health. That's digestion, body detoxification, energy, stamina, slows aging, vascular flow increases, mental clarity increases, memory increases, and there's less disease, infections, and inflammations. And if you have someone on the bodywork table and you're doing your polarity and they're coming into balance, this is exactly what's being released. You'll feel it if you press a point in the body and it's tight, constricted, and you feel it relax. It's because of the release of nitric oxide. It's a vasodilator. It was people who discovered it won the Nobel Prize for it. It's just recently really we're figuring out what its depth. There's probably $1 trillion put into research on it at this point. It's amazing in every field of medicine. Psychology, body-mind, natural health care, medicine, yoga, psychology, all of these things. Sound, I did research, this is my, related, we've already said it's related to your immune system, neuronal signaling, vascular tone. It's everywhere. And this for sound, this is the research I did in the lab. And when you when you listen to the CNG, what happens is you have sound therapy induced relaxation, and it downregulates stress processes and pathologies. And your body actually creates, as well as nitric oxide, anandamide and a dopamine response. And anandamide means the molecules of bliss. And that's why people say they get high off music. And these molecules are beyond, it says right here, the molecules are beyond mechanistic, and you need them to require and mediate all good health processes in your body constantly. In other words, it's not a matter of you just get it in a session, you should be getting it and learn to do it constantly so you're continually self-regulating.